You're listening to or watching What's the Tea? My name is Lydia.
My name's Andy.
And we are two former support workers catching up over a cuppa. Andy, have you let us down or have you actually got a cuppa today?
Now, for a while, Lydia has been doing this section and been giving me a hard time when I've either not had a drink or, I've been drinking water because, drinking water is good for your health, or it kind of also keeps you hydrated, and she's been giving me a hard time for this. So today, I'm actually drinking coffee.
Andy, I'm so proud of you.
I mean, it's not tea. I know it's not in the spirit or the, name of a podcast or anything like that, but...
It's fine, it's still a brew. Still kind of a brew of some kind, isn't it?
After a weekend of, to be perfectly honest, adulting, I need my coffee.
So we are no way experts, but we try and navigate adulting life. And in our previous life as support workers, we sometimes shocked ourselves by giving out good advice. And that is where the podcast started. So how are you doing, Andy?
I feel like, even though it's Monday, I've not had a weekend.
Well, I hate that feeling.
It's like, it is because of what I just alluded to, lots of kind of tidying up happen around the house and lots of sorting stuff out and things like that. And I just want another weekend.
Fair.
I'm going to claim my gold star.
But
and
what
my
did
coffee.
You can't just say adulting and then say you got a gold star. You've got to be more specific than that.
Tidied.
Wow. That is gold star.
Like everything apart from the desk I'm sat on. Which
the one that you used probably the most.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm sorry that you had a very adulting-ish weekend, which means you feel like you've not had a weekend. I had a great weekend.
And isn't this your one day this week you're working?
And then I'm off for 2.5 weeks. I'm buzzing. Like I like working for the Y, and I love my team. But it's just been so for the listeners and watchers at home, some of you may know, some of you may not know. I am in charge of like a new project in Paynton, and we opened our first building in April. And it's just been very like go. And I've been here, there, and everywhere for different things. So I'm very in need of this holiday. I'm very excited for this holiday, and I'm looking forward to feeling refreshed when I come back.
And for the record, it is perfectly okay to, look forward to a holiday. It is perfectly okay.
But it's also like when
enjoy
someone's
the concept of a rest, and it's okay to say those things out loud.
Yeah, it's just like when you work with someone and they're like, "Oh, I can't wait to go on holiday," and they're always saying it, and it's like, "All right, wow, you don't like working with me?"
I guess if you say it too much, too often.
To be fair, I've not been saying it too much too often.
Yeah, it could come across as, I'm so much looking forward to not seeing your face, Andy.
Never,
and
Andy.
I'm trying not
never.
to take it to heart.
No, Andy.
And
I am
I'm
actually the
try and be
opposite.
okay with this.
I'm actually the opposite. You know how much I love seeing your face in person.
And you love it so much, you went to Torbay.
Yeah. No, I miss
you,
Andy. I miss you, Andy. You know I do.
Anyway. What are we doing today? So
we're doing a podcast.
We're doing a podcast. We're doing a podcast. That's a good start. We, as a podcast, we kind of err from kind of topics like just adulting in general and kind of the messiness of that. And other times we kind of focus more on a particular subject. This week we are looking at health anxiety.
Yes, we are.
Why are we looking at this, Lydia?
Well, I think it's loads of people have experienced this at some point in their life. For some people, it might be like, a small period of time that they've experienced it, or some people experience it for the majority of their life. And I think we can all relate to that random like ache that we get in our leg, or we get a bit of a cough. We type it into Google, and then 10 minutes later, you're convinced you've only got 6 months to live. And there is always that kind of horrible pit in your stomach that you feel like, something's wrong with you in terms of like physical health wise. And I just thought it was just really important to talk about it. And I got that idea from, there is a YouTuber, he's also got a podcast, and he's called Dr. Mike.
Okay.
Some people may have come across him, and he's an actual doctor in America, and he reviews medical drama shows to see like how accurate they are, and he like reacts live. Well, when I say live, he's watching it and he's filming his reaction. But he also brought up about, health anxiety, and I just thought, oh yeah, that's something that we haven't
All right. Let's talk
talked
about
about on the podcast. So I was just like, let's talk about it.
I mean, I guess on one hand, I guess there's like two ways of approaching it, isn't there?
Mm,
One is the very serious level where people do have health anxiety, and it is a thing for them. And
mm,
it's, well, I can't do this because I might get sick,
yeah,
or um, I've got a scratch on my arm or cut on my arm. Who knows what sort of infections it's going to have, and panic kind of kicks in and things like that. And then
yeah. I think it's a
on the other
spectrum, isn't
hand,
it? Yeah,
yeah, because on the other hand, I mean, it's like you mentioned typing your symptoms into Google. I mean, if you have a cold one day
mm,
and you type in kind of sneezing, runny nose, bit of a headache, chances are you're not going to get a result that says a cold. You're going to get a result that says you're going to die in the next 6 minutes.
exactly. Yeah, and I do think like Google as well as AI, which we'll talk about a bit further on in, I do think they've improved a little bit. So
Okay.
they don't immediately go to worst case scenario, I have found, because
Mm,
I will be honest, I'm one of those people that do Google. And the reason I Google is because when I get sick, I get really sick. And sometimes
mm,
I'm one of those people that I don't want to waste the doctor's time. So I'm like, is this worth going to the GP about? Like, is there a solution or something I can do at home to help myself? So that's kind
mm.
of the angle that I take on it. It's not a health anxiety kind of side. It's
Sure.
more of like, I don't want to waste people's time. And I have noticed like and I've always been like that, always like this, where I don't really want to go to the GP unless I really have to. And I have noticed a bit of a change in the sense of like maybe like 5+ years ago, if you typed in the symptoms, you probably would get end of life scenario
Yeah.
quite a few times. Whereas I have noticed that's a lot less these days when I'm doing
Okay.
it. And actually, so I do think the people at Google and people that, use AI, like that have created AI softwares, I think they have improved it slightly. However, it's still
Mm.
not, obviously, it's not a medical professional, is it?
Yeah, I mean, I guess look at my own experience at the start of this year. When I did get sick, I got sick at such a pace. I ended up in hospital before I was able to like sit down and kind of Google or ChatGPT and
Yeah.
things like that. With that in mind, if I had done that, would I have done anything different? Probably not.
Yeah. No. And I do think like a lot of the times when you Google stuff, it does tell you like you need to, get a medical professional urgently or 999. That still comes up because
Okay,
obviously
that's
they
good.
have to cover themselves, don't they? But have I done that? No. So, but I think it's important. Like, so we've talked about Googling symptoms. We've talked about kind of how it can sometimes be helpful or add a level of anxiety. But what
Mm.
is health anxiety, Andy? If you were to like,
What is health anxiety?
yeah, kind of explain
Well,
it to our
according to my
listeners.
notes here, it's when someone spends a lot of time worrying about their health and becomes overly focused on physical symptoms or the bodily sensations.
Yeah.
So
I think
that could be, it could be like I've got an itch at the back of my neck. Oh, and then you look and you've got a bit of a rash, which is probably there because you've been scratching it. And then all of a sudden it's because, and your brain starts kind of going to the worst case scenario of
yeah.
what it could be.
And I think it's important to say that it's not someone being dramatic or making things up. The fear is completely
No.
real. And for them, it's logical. Like, for them,
Mm.
they've reached that conclusion logically. So, I think we can all say that we've been guilty of someone going on about their illness or whatever. And they're like, oh yeah, I need to go. Like, I don't know what it is. Like, I might have to have surgery or this. And you're thinking, is just a cut, dude. And sometimes we might say, oh, don't be so dramatic. And sometimes, we have to just be careful with our language because we don't know what, and I'm speaking for myself as well, because you don't know what level of anxiety that person is going through with the physical ailment or condition that they've got and being like, don't be dramatic, isn't particularly helpful to that individual. As someone that has been through anxiety and someone says don't be dramatic, I can say it's not particularly helpful, but sometimes we just jump to that a lot of the time. So it's just being mindful that the person that is telling you something might be telling you something because they've got bad anxiety over it, and actually they want you to reassure them, and you just saying don't be dramatic, it's not the reassurance that they're looking for.
Yeah, and bearing in mind that anxiety can bring its own symptoms along with it as well. So if anxiety is kicking in, that can cause things like dizziness, lightheadedness, heart palpitations in some instances, and things like that, which can actually make you feel like you're actually pretty physically sick. So therefore, if you're anxious about being sick, that is just going to become a cycle that kind of keeps repeating itself.
Oh, 100%.
So
It is a
you're
vicious
quite
cycle,
right.
yeah.
The words that we choose are incredibly important in this sort of scenario, I guess.
Yeah, and I think like you just said, yeah, so you've got symptoms that causes anxiety, then the anxiety might lead to more symptoms, and it's just kind of like around, like it just goes round and round and round, doesn't it? And one of the things that we can do as someone that is on the receiving end of that anxiety, or someone telling us about a health condition, actually we can potentially break that by the language and the assistance that we give them. And I'm not saying as well, like I know people that have had health anxiety, and I have been like reassuring to them, like I've had the same thing, it's fine, like, you know, you can go to the pharmacy, this is the thing that you need to apply, it will go within this time frame. If it doesn't, go to your GP, but it's not life threatening. Sometimes even saying that and being reassuring doesn't help that person's anxiety. And that's not to say you've done anything wrong or that person's not listening to you. They're just in that deep spiral.
Yeah.
And all you can do is just be a comfort at that point, and support them in any way you can. And it can be frustrating and it can be annoying if it's the same person over and over again. But they're living with like real anxiety. And I think sometimes when you're getting frustrated with that person, it's just remembering like it's not personal. Like they are just, unfortunately, a very anxious person. And they're going through quite an ordeal at the moment. So, you know, and I think it's also fair to say like how it affects people. Like it's not just in that moment, like it does really affect their life, as you previously kind of alluded to, you know, with searching for symptoms for hours, avoiding certain things because of the fear of getting health anxiety, you know, with the fear of getting a health condition. So it might be not going to certain areas, hand sanitizing all the time, like being, I guess, what they stereotypically call a germaphobe, you know, things to prevent themselves from getting an illness. And it's not because they don't want to get, a lot of the time they don't want to get the illness. It's because they don't want to get the anxiety that comes with it. So they're like, well, if I don't get sick, then I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to have this anxiety. I'm not going to have this crippling fear. So it really can, you know, kind of the severe end of the spectrum, because all like health conditions and mental health conditions, it's all a spectrum. Like the severe end, it can really control their life day to day. You know, their whole world is evolved around it. And, you know, it's one of the things that we want to talk about later is like some of the tools that can be helpful, because obviously we want people to be able to live a life normally and normally, whatever that looks like, and whatever that looks like, and fully. So hopefully some of the tools that we'll mention can lead on. But interesting, I just want to circle back to kind of talking about Google and AI. I'll go back to Dr. Mike, this guy, and he was interviewing an actor who's got OCD. And for those that don't know about OCD, it's obsessive compulsive disorder. Sadly, the stereotype that a lot of people think about OCD is being clean and having everything clean, but OCD is actually again a spectrum, and it's, for some people, it's got nothing to do with cleanliness. And this individual was talking about how OCD gives him health anxiety because of the obsessiveness around it. And he was asking Dr. Mike, as a doctor, well, what do you think about people using Google and AI to not self-diagnose necessarily? Because if you ever use AI to put your symptoms in, it says we cannot give you a diagnosis, please do seek professional medical advice. But it will, you know, say all the possibilities it could be.
Yeah.
And Dr. Mike was like, I think the actor was expecting the doctor to just be like flat out, like, that's the worst thing. And he was actually saying, like, you know, if that helps someone in terms of relieve some of their anxiety and they feel more comfortable talking to an AI than they do a doctor, he's like, I'm not opposed to it. I think what he's opposed to is that people use that as like gospel. So they're like, because
Yeah.
AI says I've got it, I must have it. And he was like, that's where you get into dangerous ground. But if it relieves some anxiety, or it gives the person confidence to go to the doctor to converse what's going on for them, he's all for it. And, you know, I've used AI recently, so I've had like really bad skin, the worst flare up I've had since I was a teenager, with eczema, and I was like, I don't know what's caused. I've got a lot of allergies, and I knew that I'd not come into contact with any of the allergies, so I was like, you know, is it something that I'm missing? So I used AI to kind of like help me narrow what the possibilities were causing it, but also kind of like some of the homemade treatments I could use, because all the ones that I normally use weren't working.
Yeah.
And then, you know, it wasn't getting better, so eventually I did go and seek medical advice, but the AI stuff kind of helped eventually. But no, but like the using AI just helped me come up with possible solutions. And interestingly, those were the solutions that the doctor suggested. And I was like, I've tried that, it doesn't work. You know, however, I didn't again take what AI said as like 100% factually true.
It's a tool in the toolbox, isn't it? It's not the
Yeah.
whole toolbox.
Exactly. So should we talk about tools that can
Before we go down the tools that can help, we have talked about Google and AI quite a bit. I think we should probably stop and note that this isn't a new thing that has come along with social media. Back in the, I'm going to show my age a little bit. Back in the early 2000s, there's this comedy
Andy is
that
so old.
had a, I know, that had an episode based around basically this. Basically, a person worried about a spot on his body, and he went to consult the Death Book.
Oh.
And he called it the Death Book because it was basically, and this used to be a thing, where you'd have an encyclopedia, for lack of better words.
What's an encyclopedia? Is that what they used to call books? Like, is that a book? I've never seen a book.
A really big book of information, and you look up your symptoms, and it'll give you information about what it could be. And the on-running joke throughout the episode was you'd look it up, and chances are you're going to die. And this is like before social media became a thing. This is
wow. Yeah. No, I hadn't even thought of that. Yeah, no. I remember encyclopedias, and you could get different ones for different things. But yeah, I guess that's how people would look up their symptoms, isn't it? And I think it's important to talk about as actually like, why are so many more people experiencing it? Because I've noticed like a lot of people in my life have developed health anxiety. So they didn't have it when we were growing up. They've now got it. And I'm seeing a lot more people experience it. So I guess the question is, why might that be? Like, what is potentially contributing to a lot of this anxiety around health? And I think, you know, looking at kind of my algorithm on Instagram, a lot of it, you know, even like ads as well, a lot of it is health, well-being, wellness. There's a lot of supplements out there now, and they're like, this can help with this, this can help with this. And I think, and also like you can see a lot of people's like recovery journey, which I think can be really helpful, because I think it does spread awareness for a lot of conditions. Like we're seeing a lot on social media about Tourette's, which is something that, you know, again, is one of the things that hasn't really been talked about until, you know, it's gone into social media. There's a great movie about Tourette's. And I think it's really helpful for, you know, informing people, educating them, spreading awareness. And for a lot of people, it's a form of therapy. Like if they're going through cancer and they're showing their cancer journey, it can be really therapeutic to people. But I also think, though, there's a lot of stuff out there that I think can contribute to a lot of health anxiety, because, you know, it's more accessible. You're hearing about more conditions than ever before, because before social media, you know, it was the news, or, you know, it was adverts on TV that were selling you things, and it was normally by quite reputable brands, such as, you know, I don't know, like advertisements from Boots or whatever it is. And now you've got a lot of influencers creating their own brands, which is nothing, you know, nothing wrong with that. But there is just so much more out there of all these things that you can take, supplements, whatever. I think it does contribute to an increased level of anxiety around health. And I think also we've got to factor in as well the pandemic. You know, everyone was like, oh, we're still talking about the pandemic and COVID. But I think, we went through quite a few years of being like, don't be
Yes.
around other people. You're going
Quite
to
a few
get
years
sick.
of quite a massive thing.
Yeah. And I do think, that has contributed to a lot of social anxiety because obviously people weren't socializing. But I think it's also contributed to a lot of health anxiety. Understandably, we were losing people that we knew due to an illness, and it was a global pandemic. I think it's quite logical, really, for that to, make people more wary over
Yeah.
illnesses and things like that. So I think there's quite a few factors in there that I think has led to an increase. I think health anxiety has always been there, whether that's with an encyclopedia, Google. But now I think there's an increase, and I think those are some of the factors that I think we need to consider as to what has caused this.
So, what can help? What
What can help?
tools are there that can help deal with health anxiety? Shall I start with number one?
You go with number one.
Challenge Dr. Google, challenge ChatGPT, challenge
Or other
whatever
AI
AI you're
providers.
using. Yes,
Yeah.
especially ChatGPT, well, especially AI chat, because you can actually have a proper conversation and you can then ask it questions and you can almost verbally wrestle
Yeah.
with the thing as well.
I am someone as well. I don't know if it's because it's the cynic in me, but I never take things at face value. Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I'm always like, is that actually true? Like on Instagram or whatever. It's the same with Dr. Google or AI. I always like then go, I use Google to fact check Google. Do you know what I mean? But I'm like, is it
Yeah,
true that this is this? Like, what are the actual symptoms of this condition that Google or AI have just told me?
Mm.
I think, yeah, chat, definitely fact check, question it.
And bearing in mind that if you're feeling anxious about something, anxiety isn't known for making for rational choices in our
No.
minds,
Yeah.
So just bear that in mind.
Yeah, I think so. And I think also, if it's, I think also like, I think potentially, I'm trying to make sure I'm not, yes, I'm jumping ahead, so I'm not going to say that. I was like, hang on, I was just going to mention something and I don't know if that's at all further down, and it is. Number two, which I absolutely love because it's really great for anxiety, is ask yourself, what's the evidence? So if you have social anxiety, for example, social anxiety can be like, oh, that person's judging me, or oh, that person thinks I look stupid in these pair of trousers, for example. That's kind of a really simplified example for a very complex condition. But I think it's this, and one of the things I've done cognitive behavioral therapy. I had social anxiety in my late teens, early 20s, and I did CBT, and it really helped me because it was like, what evidence have you got to say that thought that you've got, that intrusive thought, is true? And I think it's the same for health conditions. Anxiety is like, what's the evidence to say that this is actually true? What are the other possibilities it could be that aren't so severe? So, for example, the fact is I've got a headache.
Yeah.
I definitely have a serious
Yeah,
that's a fact. I have a serious illness. That's a fear. And it's like, okay, what are the actual factual symptoms I'm experiencing as opposed to the fear things that's telling me? Like, what's the evidence that you've got a serious illness? If you're saying Google, then that's not a fact. So
or the words could or might.
Yeah.
It's I have a headache.
Yeah.
What can cause a headache? Well, I'm not drunk enough today. I've spent a lot of time looking at a screen. I'm actually really flipping stressed right now.
100%. And I think learning to separate the two can be really helpful. And we do it a lot in terms of like working with our young people. A lot of our young people that we work with have anxiety for various different things. And one of the things that I always tell people is, is that fact or feeling? Is that factual? Or is that a feeling? So like, oh, that person hates me. I'm like, is that factual or is that a feeling? And if they tell me it's factual, I'm like, okay, what evidence have you obtained for that to be factually true? And if they're not able to give me any, I'm like, okay, so it's a feeling. That doesn't mean it's factually true. That's how you're feeling. Why are you feeling that? And that can just be helpful just to lower the anxiety. So it's one of the things that I think is just like the best thing to do, is just separate the two between fact, feeling, or fear.
So you just mentioned anxiety. This could be a good place to kind of talk about grounding techniques. Do you want to talk us through like the kind of classic kind of grounding
Yeah, so box breathing is really helpful. So box breathing can be like where, breathe in for 5, hold for 4, breathe out for 6. There's different numbers, there's different
Okay.
variations for it. And that just helps ground your kind of breathing. So it's a kind of a
Mm.
normal equilibrium. The other thing is, you're using your senses. So name 5 things you can see.
Mm.
And then you go 4 things that you can touch. And interestingly, I watched a movie recently. So it's called Heartstoppers. It's a series. So it's an
Okay.
LGBTQ. Hang on, LGBTQ plus. I got my letters mixed around. That's when you know you're dyslexic.
Yeah.
TV series, and they've just done the movie as the final thing. And one of the
Okay.
main characters has really serious mental health. So had an eating disorder, got really bad anxiety,
Mm.
and in it, and I really love this, the therapist goes, let's do some grounding techniques. And he's in his bedroom, he's like, name 5 things you can see, and the guy's like, a lamp, and immediately he starts to ground and just become calm. So it is, it is one of the best things that you can
Brilliant.
do when anxiety is through the roof.
Amazing. Um, I think it's also good to stop yourself from kind of keep checking your symptoms. Could be like, because we've all got mobile phones and stuff, it's really easy to be like, right, I'm just going to jump on, I'm going to check this new symptom. I can see if there's another article I could read, if there's something else out there, if there's another video about this headache that's been going on. Maybe put the phone down.
Yeah, I think distraction techniques are really good at this
Yeah.
point as well. Like putting your phone down and doing something that is going to take your mind off it. If you're a gamer, go and just
Mm.
absorb yourself in a game.
Go play a game.
And
Drink
you
some
might
water.
find that you become distracted, your anxiety comes down, and you might find that the symptoms that you were thinking or were worried about are lesser because actually the anxiety's made those symptoms worse. So yeah, definitely resist the constant checking and distract yourself with some healthy coping mechanisms, I would say. And I think the final one, which I would say it's probably the obvious one, but it's the one that we forget to do,
Yeah.
is speaking to someone, whether that is a friend, a family member, your GP, your therapist or counselor. I think just talking about and saying that I've got this anxiety because of this condition. And I think one of the things, I've got a family member that's got quite severe health anxiety. And their health anxiety started because sadly, it's a bit extreme, but sadly they unexpectedly lost their husband. And so that started all the health anxiety for them, I think, right, understandably. And
Yeah.
their GP is aware they've got health anxiety. So if she asks for an appointment, the GP is really good at giving her one because they know that, she doesn't have a lot of family around her. So by
Mm.
going to the GP goes, I know it's just going to relieve some of that anxiety for them.
Mm.
And I think it's fair to say,
That's
like,
good of them.
yeah, I know, really good. And I think it's fair to say as well, like, we know how difficult it is to get GP appointments these days. Like,
Yeah.
ever since the pandemic, like, just getting a GP appointment is like gold dust. And I think, I totally get that that's really difficult. But if you can try and do an e-consult and just explain that you've got some anxiety over a condition, and then when you get that, whether it's a phone call or in-person doctor's appointment, I think just being honest and just saying, like, I have a lot of anxiety around my health. Like, I find that I'm Googling a lot of symptoms, so the GP can just make a note of that. And then hopefully they can be a bit more understanding if you're frequently needing GP appointments. They know you're not just doing it to kind of waste time, that actually there's a
Yeah.
reason behind you requesting these appointments.
And I guess it's no bad thing either, kind of planning what you want to say,
Mm,
having a note on your phone or wherever
yeah.
to kind of remind you. So, and I guess if you are in person as well, that can help to kind of refer to and
Oh yeah.
show and things like that.
I've worked with young people where they found it really hard to communicate. Like, they've just had a lot of anxiety communicating about a specific thing. I was like, write it down on a piece of paper, give it to your GP and say, I'm
Yeah.
finding it really difficult to communicate this. So I've written kind of a letter for you to read.
Mm.
And, and I know doctors have been really thankful for that because it's got all the information that they need. Whereas sometimes if you try and force yourself to communicate something that you find really difficult, the GP doesn't have all the information to then be able to reach a conclusion. Whereas if you just
Mm.
beforehand, when you're in a good level, kind of calm space, just write it all down, then the GP is so thankful because it's like, well, I've got all the information that I need to then be able to help you.
Have you got any final thoughts about this before we move on to weird news?
I think if there's one thing that I want people to take away from this is health anxiety doesn't mean you're weak. It doesn't mean you're being dramatic, and it certainly doesn't mean you're alone. There's so many people out there experiencing all range of different health anxiety on the spectrum. And I think be kind to yourself, look after yourself in terms of like the anxiety, not the thing that's, you know, the potential symptoms that could lead to a health condition, and just speak to someone about it. So a problem shared is a problem halved. This is what I always tell my young people.
Amazing.
And I've never known anyone to say I felt worse for sharing with someone something that they're going through. Actually, they feel lighter. So those would be my takeaways.
Amazing. And now, weird news.
Got your coffee, got your shoes. It's time to dive into the weirdest news.
So earlier on, I talked about the death book and how it was a bit of a slightly older thing in life. Back when I was a kid, there was a TV show called Record Breakers.
Okay.
Long time ago. I mean,
As
it
I
was,
say, I've
like
never heard of
it was an old program when I was young.
Oh, like in the
And
50s?
It probably started in the 50s, to be perfectly honest. We're talking an old TV show. But its kind of selling point was you'd have a guy called Roy Castle on it who would occasionally kind of who'd occasionally break records himself, and they'd have like people on this show breaking world records, and it was from the truly kind of sportsman-like, impressive, fastest man alive type stuff to the kind of slightly crazier stunts that people pull. On that note, serial record breaker David Rush reclaimed the Guinness World Record by balancing 195 toilet rolls on his forehead for 30 seconds. Let's just take a moment, work that out. 95 toilet rolls balanced on your forehead.
Pretty impressive, to be fair. It's pretty impressive.
His previous record was 101.
Wow.
Another competitor had raised it to 152. So I guess if nothing else, we can take away from this that competitive toilet roll balancing is an actual sporting rivalry type.
Do you think they
thing.
practice it at
They
home?
must do. They must do.
Yeah, I'm just thinking
But
that's a lot of toilet roll. That must be costing them a
But
lot.
where do you practice this sort of thing? I mean, if I balance 195 toilet rolls, I mean, how tall is that?
That is pretty tall. Well, it depends on how tall the person is as well, because you've got to factor that into the height as well. But that's a lot.
I mean, still.
That is a lot. But also, how is he getting the toilet rolls up there? Because if you stack
he
them...
probably has a assistant with a ladder.
Oh, I
or
see.
some
So
sort of
someone's putting them on.
scaffolding device.
Okay. Because I'm thinking, you know, when it gets past a certain height, like past your arms, I'm like, you can't put any more
you've
on.
got to have something. Some sort of
Yeah.
ladders or something like that.
Yeah, exactly.
But yeah, there we go.
Wow.
Toilet roll balancing is basically a sport.
Who would have thought it? So, sticking, I think, to the toileting theme. I don't know why it's a toileting theme today. Andy, have you ever had that moment where you're desperate for the toilet and you're out in public and you could never find one?
I've definitely had that dream.
Well, China has solved that problem for anyone. So a Chinese company, I'm not going to bother pronouncing the name, has got a toilet that essentially comes to you via kind of voice recognition or remote control.
Okay.
And basically, it was mainly designed for kind of the older generation that might not be able to hold it as long. But I think that's a great thing for anyone. Like, you just go, toilet, come here, and then a toilet appears. I think that's great.
I've seen that episode of Scrubs.
There you go.
I think it's called Dr. Toilet.
Yeah.
Oh my days.
So a lot of people might think, well, where does the waste go? It does have a waste container, so you do have to empty it. Because obviously if the toilet's coming to you, it's obviously not connected to sewage system. So it's basically like a potty, essentially, on wheels that's voice controlled.
It's like one of those robots, lawnmower, Hoover things, except, you know.
Yeah, 100%. Because
With
you imagine
lemon.
though, can you imagine? I've got friends with kids, and a lot of them have been through potty training. Some are currently coming up for potty training, and obviously there is a lot of accidents that come with potty training. If you had like something like that, it would be a game changer for trying to teach kids how to use the toilet.
Market.
I know.
It's
I don't
just
think
there
it's just for old
thinking.
people. I think the Chinese company, yes, I think it's great. It's for the older generation that can't necessarily hold their bladder or they have continence issues. But I think there's a whole open market there for parenting, for everyone.
I mean, heck, the work from home market would love it. It's amazing.
Yeah. So there you go. A toilet that moves.
On that note, let's finish. Let's call time before we go even further down the toilet rabbit hole.
Yeah.
Thank you for watching and or listening to What's for Tea. Please don't forget to subscribe to us on your favourite podcast provider or find us on the YMCA Exeter YouTube channel. Till next time, take care.
Bye, guys.